rang at 2:47 a.m. Alexei Volkov did not answer it. He sat in the dark, perfectly still, watching the screen of his encrypted device light up and die. Light up. Die. He counted the rings /U 2014 4 every time. Not 3. Not 5. 4. Someone was sending him a message without saying a word, and every nerve in his body already knew what it meant. He stood. Crossed the room. Parted the curtain exactly 2 centimeters /U 2014 enough to see the street below without exposing his silhouette. The black sedan had been parked across from his apartment building for 11 hours. He had noted it at 4 in the afternoon. A different car had been there yesterday. Different plates. Same angle. His jaw tightened. He let the curtain fall. In the kitchen, he opened the stove, held a small stack of papers over the burner, and watched them curl into nothing. His face was unreadable. His hands were completely steady. But deep behind his eyes /U 2014 for the first time in 11 years of doing this /U 2014 something was breaking. For the first time in years /U 2026 he felt watched. His name inside Russian foreign intelligence was Volkov, the Wolf. Not because he was violent. Because he was patient. He had been recruited at 26, commissioned at 28, and by 32 was one of the most trusted field officers in the directorate. Senior colleagues respected him. His superiors had no idea what he actually was. He lived in a modest flat in Moscow. Same route to work every morning, not because he was boring, but because routine was cover. Nothing about him invited a second look. But underneath that life, stitched invisibly into its fabric, was another one entirely. For 7 years, Alexei had been feeding classified intelligence to German Federal Intelligence, the BND. Not for millions. The money helped, but that was never the whole story. He had watched his own agency corrupt itself from the inside. Operations fabricated, innocent people destroyed for political convenience. Somewhere in that long disillusionment, he had made a decision that could never be undone. "I'm not a traitor," he had told his German handler, Werner, during their third meeting in Prague. "I'm correcting an error." Werner had looked at him across the coffee table and said, carefully, "Whatever helps you sleep." Alexei had not answered. He had not slept well in years. The system he built was elegant. Dead drops in 3 cities, a loose brick in a Vienna courtyard, a storage locker in Warsaw, a hollowed paperback in Berlin. He never used the same channel twice in a row. He studied his own agency's surveillance protocols so completely that he could predict exactly when they looked, and be somewhere else entirely. He was not reckless. He was precise. During a counterintelligence briefing, his superior had said, "The greatest threat to any operation is the agent who thinks they are smarter than the system." Alexei had nodded along with everyone else. He had also written the report that briefing was based on. He didn't just play the game, he had mastered it. He told himself that every morning. When his hands shook on the drive home from a dead drop. When his phone buzzed with an unscheduled message and his stomach dropped before he even opened it. The discipline of convincing yourself you were untouchable, because the moment you stopped believing it, you started making mistakes. Then he made a mistake. It was small. That is what made it so devastating. In March, under pressure from both sides, his directorate had moved a surveillance schedule forward, and Werner had simultaneously requested a secondary confirmation. Alexei repeated a communication pattern. He used the same dead drop in Warsaw twice within 30 days. He told himself it was a calculated risk. That no one would notice. Someone noticed. Not immediately. Not loudly. Just a quiet analyst named Lena Fischer, reviewing signal traffic, who spotted a geographical overlap that didn't fit. She flagged it. 3 sentences. It sat in an internal report for 11 days before anyone read it carefully. But when they did, everything changed. It wasn't a big error. It was the kind no one notices, until it's too late. Werner was pulled from field rotation without explanation. Two analysts began building a silent picture, pulling years of records, mapping timelines, cross-referencing entry logs across 3 countries. Because Russian counterintelligence had also started watching, not from hard evidence, but from a low-level informant who flagged unusual movement inside the BND. Not facts. Not proof. Just the scent of something. Enough to open a parallel file on Volkov that his own colleagues managed without ever mentioning it to his face. Both sides were watching him now. He didn't know. The hunter had become the hunted. It started with small things. He began sleeping in 90-minute intervals, waking to check the window, running probability scenarios in his mind at 3 a.m. He reread old messages trying to find what he had exposed. He sat in meetings and watched colleagues' faces for micro-expressions, the tightening around the eyes, the pause before a question. He called Werner's contact number. It rang out. He tried the backup channel. Silence. Something is wrong, he said aloud, alone in his apartment. Not to anyone. Just to the walls. He began varying his route to work, which was itself a mistake, because routine was his cover, and abandoning it was the first sign anyone needed. He stopped eating. Lost weight. His superior called him in and said, "You look exhausted, Alexei. Is everything all right?" "Perfectly," he said. "A project I've been pushing hard on." His superior nodded. Said nothing more. But after Alexei left, he made a call. Alexei started seeing patterns everywhere, a colleague who left the break room the moment he entered, a message from an unknown number that read, "We know you enjoy Vienna this time of year." He stared at it for 20 minutes. Deleted it. Walked to the bathroom, ran cold water over his wrists, and looked at himself in the mirror. "Pull yourself together," he said quietly. He was losing. He knew it. The worst part, the part eating him from the inside, was not knowing which side would reach him first, or what they intended to do. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every silence felt like a trap. He got a message on a Thursday morning, on his personal phone, not his encrypted device. That alone was a catastrophic breach of protocol. The message was from a number he didn't recognize, but the content used a phrase only Werner had ever used in their early meetings. Lunch in the old place. 1 hour. He stood in the hallway of his apartment building and read it 4 times. It was either Werner, risking everything to warn him, or it was the BND setting him up. Or it was Russian counterintelligence, who had somehow extracted the phrase from Werner. Any one of those possibilities meant danger. All 3 of them together meant he had already lost. He put his phone in his pocket. Picked up his coat. In the lobby, he stopped. Through the glass door, he could see the street. A man in a gray jacket stood at the corner, not looking at his phone, not moving, facing slightly away but angled so that his peripheral vision covered the building entrance. 30 meters to the left, a car was idling, engine running, no visible driver. Alexei stood very still. For the first time, he was no longer in control. He thought about Werner's voice across a coffee table in Prague. "Whatever helps you sleep." He thought about the thesis he had written at 26, about the way systems destroy the people who built them. He thought about the first document he had ever handed over, his hands perfectly steady, telling himself it was the right thing. He pushed the door open and walked out into the cold. In the world of spies, the truth doesn't always survive. If this story got under your skin, you are not alone. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think happened next. Did he make it out? Was it a trap? I want to read your theories. And if you want more psychological suspense stories like this one, subscribe and hit the bell. New stories drop every week, and you will not want to miss what's coming next. Like the video if this kept you watching till the end. It genuinely helps more than you know.